there comes a point in life where you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this situation asking from me? That is the operator shift. Not loud, not tough, not emotionless, just different. Because most people spend their entire lives reacting to life, reacting to stress, reacting to uncertainty, reacting to other people's moods, reacting to pressure, reacting to fear. And eventually, they become shaped by reaction itself. Their nervous system becomes their identity. Their chaos becomes their personality. Their exhaustion becomes normal. But operators move differently. They begin to realise the quality of your life is often determined by the quality of your regulation, not motivation, not hype, not intensity, regulation. Because if your internal state collapses every time pressure arrives, then pressure owns you, and pressure is everywhere. The operator shift begins the moment you stop glorifying emotional chaos. And that's difficult because modern culture rewards reactivity, fast opinions, fast outrage, fast stimulation, fast dopamine, fast validation. Everything is immediate. Everything is emotionally amplified. Everything wants your nervous system, your attention, your reaction, your energy. And if you ever learn to observe, you become programmable. Or actually, what I should say is, if you never learn to observe, I knew that didn't sound quite right. And if you never learn to observe, you become programmable, okay? Most people think freedom means doing whatever they want. But real freedom is being able to remain stable inside environments designed to destabilize you. That's the shift. Because calm isn't weakness. Calm is retained awareness under pressure. When I say operator, I'm not talking about some alpha persona. I'm talking about somebody who learns to see clearly. Someone who understands emotion affects perception. Perception affects decisions. Decisions affect outcomes. So instead of constantly fighting reality, they learn to regulate themselves within it. Right? And slowly their whole life changes. Not overnight and not dramatically, quietly, almost invisibly. They begin pausing before responding. They stop needing to win every conversation. They stop explaining themselves to people committed to misunderstanding them. There's a deep one. Replay that. They stop feeding chaos with more chaos. They stop leaking energy into everything. And eventually they realise something profound. Most suffering is amplified by resistance. Operators understand timing. And timing requires observation, not panic. Because panic narrows perception. We've discussed that. Fear speeds everything up artificially. And emotionally overloaded people make expensive decisions. Financially, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. You can see this everywhere. People reacting to temporary feelings like they're permanent truths. Burning bridges, quitting things impulsively, destroying relationships, self-sabotaging opportunities. All because they believe the emotion of the moment was objective reality. But emotions are weather systems, not permanent architecture. And operators learn not to build identities inside temporary storms. The operator's shift is also the moment you stop outsourcing your state of external conditions. That's huge. Because most people only feel okay if circumstances cooperate, if the market behaves, if a relationship behaves, if the money behaves, if people validate them, if life remains comfortable. But operators train stability independently of conditions. That's real power. Because eventually you realise life is never fully stable externally. There will always be uncertainty. Markets fluctuate, people change, bodies change, plans fail, chaos appears. That's life. So if your stability depends entirely on external predictability, you'll always feel unsafe. The operator shift says, I cannot control everything around me, but I can learn to control my relationship with it. That changes everything. And strangely, when you become calmer, you actually become more effective. You see more, you hear more. You notice patterns earlier. You stop wasting energy reacting emotionally to every fluctuation. And because of that, your decisions improve. This is why calm becomes a competitive advantage. Most people are internally overloaded, distracted, emotionally fragmented, chronically stimulated, running stress chemistry every single day. And they mistake that state for normal functioning. But it isn't normal, it's survival adaptation. Operators train themselves to return to centre faster. That's the difference. Not perfection, recovery, awareness. Because nobody is calm all the time. That isn't the goal. The goal is shortening the distance between dysregulation and awareness. And the strange thing is, the more regulated you become, the less impressed you become by noise. You stop chasing urgency. You stop worshipping intensity. You stop confusing emotional volatility with passion. You become quieter internally, more precise, more intentional. You begin understanding energy differently too. You realise attention is currency. And where attention goes, life follows. So operators become protective of what enters their nervous system. The media, the people, the conversations, the environments. Because environment is never neutral. It's conditioning you constantly. And eventually, I suppose, you stop asking, how do I escape chaos? And start asking the more relevant question, how do I remain conscious within it? That's mastery. Not controlling the ocean, learning how to move within the waves. Because life will still test you. There will still be uncertainty, loss, fatigue, fear, pressure, moments where you wobble, moments where old versions of you try to return, that never fully disappear. But the operator shift means you no longer fully become the storm. You can go witness it yourself, inside it. And observation changes everything. That's why awareness matters so much. Because awareness creates space. And inside that space, choice returns. Reaction says, I am the emotion. Observation says, I am aware of the emotion. And that tiny distinction changes the trajectory of a human life. So maybe the real evolution isn't becoming fearless. Maybe it's becoming conscious enough that fear no longer controls the operating system. Maybe strength isn't aggression. Maybe strength is nervous system stability. Maybe intelligence isn't just IQ. Maybe intelligence is emotional regulation under pressure. And maybe the operator shift is simply this. Move through chaos without surrendering your awareness to it. Because eventually you realise the goal was never to become untouchable. The goal was to become present, stable enough to think clearly, aware enough to choose consciously, calm enough to see reality accurately. That is the operator shift. And once you experience it, you can never fully return to unconscious reactivity again, because now you've seen the mechanism. And once you see the mechanism, you begin reclaiming authorship of your life. Observation over reaction. Awareness before emotion. Calm inside chaos. And maybe that changes everything.